In 2016, behind the closed doors of a Disney Channel office, a young Jake Paul, full of charm and ambition, signed a contract to star in the series Bizaardvark. At that moment, no one could have foreseen the scandalous legacy he would leave behind just a few years later. How does a social media icon transition from Disney darling to a name surrounded by allegations of manipulation and abuse? And what lies beneath the carefully curated image that millions followed? The answers, though shocking, reveal a darker truth hidden in plain sight. While Paul's fame officially began on Vine, where he and his older brother Logan showcased comedic skits, testimonies from his hometown of Cleveland paint a more troubling picture. Former classmates recall instances of bullying filmed and shared online, a precursor to his notoriety. Although these clips were later erased, they remain preserved in school records, offering insight into a young man willing to use humiliation as entertainment. More chillingly, reports tie his actions to 3 suicide attempts, though legal consequences were avoided due to his juvenile status. By 2017, Jake Paul had escalated his ambitions, founding the infamous Team 10. On the surface, this was a collective of creators seeking mutual success. However, accounts from former members expose a grim environment of control and coercion. Contracts signed by these aspiring influencers granted Paul alarming authority over their lives, restricting family contact and subjecting them to surveillance. Phones were tapped, emails were monitored, and those who disobeyed faced fines or worse. Financial records from this period further reveal exploitative schemes, funneling significant earnings to Paul while leaving his collaborators empty-handed. The chaos extended beyond Team 10's walls. Neighbors of the mansion reported 47 complaints to the LAPD, ranging from disruptive parties to explosions and even suspected arson. One incident involved a teenage girl sustaining injuries, but her family mysteriously dropped the case after receiving a sizable payment. Allegations of emotional abuse surfaced publicly in 2018, spearheaded by Alyssa Violet, a former Team 10 member who described a cult-like atmosphere designed to break the will of those involved. Surveillance cameras in private spaces captured incriminating footage used for blackmail, while the mansion allegedly hosted disturbing parties attended by minors and Hollywood elites. Financial deception ran parallel to these controversies, as investigations uncovered that up to 40% of his online audience consisted of bots, inflating his value to advertisers by millions. By 2019, accusations grew even darker. Underground parties reportedly offered drugs and alcohol to underage attendees, with reports of overdoses, and 2 girls mysteriously vanishing after these events. In 2020, as the world faced the chaos of a global pandemic, Jake saw opportunity in crisis. With millions of teenagers stuck at home, he launched the Financial Freedom Movement, an online course promising to teach its audience the secrets to earning wealth without ever leaving their bedrooms. The subscription fee? $20 per month. The reality? A concoction of plagiarized materials lifted from legitimate business coaches and free online sources. Within 3 months, Paul had amassed over $2 million, funneled swiftly into offshore accounts before questions could even be raised. The FBI's raid on his El Paso mansion in July 2020 brought more of Paul's shady dealings to light. While the official pretext for the operation was his alleged involvement in riots at a shopping mall, insiders suggest a deeper motive. Federal agents reportedly seized documents tying Paul to large-scale financial fraud. The investigation revealed his involvement in a pump-and-dump cryptocurrency scheme. Paul used his influence to promote obscure tokens, driving up their value with promises of quick riches. After his young, impressionable fans invested heavily, he discreetly sold his holdings, reaping a $10 million profit while leaving countless supporters in financial ruin. The ding-doink cryptocurrency project was perhaps his most audacious maneuver. Advertised as the next big thing in digital currency, he concealed his ownership of 100% of the tokens. Following an aggressive marketing blitz, the currency's value skyrocketed by 7,000%. Paul cashed out entirely, crashing the market and leaving thousands of investors, many of them teenagers, with empty wallets. His NFT endeavor, Pokemon-inspired digital art cards, mirrored this pattern. Within 24 hours of launch, $4 million were raised. However, Buyers never received their purchases, and the project vanished without explanation, sparking outrage. By 2022, Paul's schemes had evolved, now intertwined with his burgeoning boxing career. Banking records uncovered an elaborate web of financial transactions involving fake betting accounts and offshore laundering. Before his matches, these accounts placed suspiciously large bets, inflating earnings that Paul washed through cryptocurrencies and merchandise sales. His so-called boxing fund cemented his reputation for exploitation. Marketed as a chance for fans to invest in his career, the initiative funneled funds into offshore shell companies rather than the promised training and fight preparations. In 2023, the investigation by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission into his financial dealings uncovered a labyrinth of corruption and deceit. However, what initially seemed like another case of corporate fraud took a far darker turn. Analysts identified transactions linking Paul to accounts associated with organized crime syndicates. These connections went beyond mere bookkeeping, as individuals with criminal records began surfacing within his inner circle. These figures were rumored to be problem solvers, handling sensitive situations on his behalf. A pattern of ominous incidents began to emerge. A journalist working on a documentary exposing his crypto operations was hospitalized following a suspicious car crash. Similarly, a former employee, poised to release damning evidence of financial misconduct, suddenly retracted their claims after a visit from unnamed individuals. A critical server containing key evidence of Paul's fraudulent schemes was destroyed in a fire, with investigators unable to determine its cause. As speculation grew over his fight with Mike Tyson, financial watchdogs sounded alarms about unusual betting activity. Offshore entities sprang up overnight, while whispers of insider betting information spread across the dark web. Offers for predetermined outcomes flooded online forums, reinforcing the theory that the event was yet another elaborate con in Paul's growing legacy of deceit. Meanwhile, revelations about the Team 10 mansion continued to surface. In 2020, a video by former member Justine Paradise detailed allegations of sexual misconduct against Paul. Her emotional testimony opened a floodgate of accusations, with law enforcement uncovering 14 complaints tied to the mansion between 2017 and 2020. Disturbingly, most cases were quietly dropped after financial settlements, while others mysteriously disappeared from police archives. Statements from former workers painted a scary picture of what life was like in the mansion. Young girls auditioning for Team 10 were reportedly drugged, coerced into compromising situations, and blackmailed using recordings stored in a secure safe. These allegations gained further traction with the tragic story of Emily Redford, a 19-year-old model last seen at one of Paul's notorious parties. Days before her disappearance, she confided in friends about horrifying events she had witnessed. Her phone's final signal led authorities to the Mojave Desert, but the investigation was abruptly halted following calls from influential figures. The release of surveillance footage in 2021 offered a brief glimpse into the mansion's dark underbelly. Leaked videos depicted disturbing scenes of violence and exploitation before disappearing from the internet, wiped clean by unknown forces. Reports of soundproof underground rooms, allegedly used for illicit purposes, added another layer to Paul's sinister empire. Claims of ties to human trafficking networks further cemented the idea that his operations extended far beyond fame and fortune, into a chilling world of exploitation and criminal enterprise. In 2022, the FBI conducted a series of raids on Jake Paul's sprawling mansion, officially under the pretext of investigating illegal weapons possession. However, agents left with an alarming cache of evidence unrelated to firearms: hard drives, handwritten logs, and sealed documents linked to a web of illicit activities. Curiously, the lead investigator in the case abruptly resigned within a week, relocating overseas under mysterious circumstances. His departure left critical questions unanswered, fueling speculation of external pressure or coercion. Beneath the surface of Paul's public persona, accounts of his manipulative tactics within Team 10 began to resurface. Former members detailed an oppressive regime that mirrored the psychological manipulation techniques of destructive cults. Collective punishments were routine, including restrictions on meals or sleep, while total isolation from family ensured complete dependency on Paul. A grim focal point of these accounts was the punishment room, a dimly lit basement chamber where he reportedly subjected disobedient team members to hours of verbal abuse and intimidation. Survivors of these ordeals have since sought intensive psychological rehabilitation. Outside of Team 10, allegations from the boxing world cast a darker shadow. In 2023, 2 cheerleaders accused Paul of attempted assault just before one of his high-profile matches. Although neither case reached trial, both women vanished abroad shortly after receiving what was termed compensation for emotional harm. Simultaneously, a former bodyguard came forward with chilling claims about his systematic surveillance practices. He revealed the existence of extensive dossiers containing compromising videos, private correspondence, and covert recordings, maintained as leverage against anyone who might expose his secrets. As the anticipated fight against Mike Tyson loomed, disturbing revelations emerged about Paul's underground fighting past. Insiders disclosed that Paul had orchestrated a network of unlicensed matches in clandestine Los Angeles venues as early as 2019. Fighters were often hired under false pretenses, with outcomes predetermined to favor Paul's financial interests. Reports from bookmakers indicated that a single night could see up to $1 million wagered in cash, with severe injuries being a frequent consequence. One fighter's disappearance during this period remains unsolved, casting further suspicion on the brutality of these secretive events. The controversy extended into Paul's sanctioned boxing career. Investigative findings revealed a pattern of anomalous betting activity before his fights, including substantial offshore deposits linked to Paul's accounts. A glaring example occurred during his first professional match, where millions in suspicious wagers favored his victory in the opening round. The revelation that his opponent received a hefty sum for delivering the expected outcome further tarnished the event. The events leading up to October 2024 reveal an intricate web of corruption surrounding his biggest career fight. Within his training camp, whispers of irregularities grew louder as 2 sparring partners were hospitalized under mysterious circumstances. Tests conducted on one revealed traces of substances designed to manipulate doping results, raising alarms about the lengths Paul's team would go to ensure his advantage. Financial investigations exposed an elaborate money laundering network operating under the guise of boxing promotions. Front companies, ostensibly involved in event organization and ticket sales, served as conduits for millions of dollars from illegal gambling and the sale of banned substances. These activities extended beyond professional matches, as evidence tied Paul to underground bare-knuckle tournaments. Hosted in Las Vegas casino basements and abandoned warehouses in Los Angeles, these brutal events left non-professional fighters with severe injuries, while cryptocurrency bets surged to astronomical amounts. The stakes rose exponentially in 2023 when a former team member leaked incriminating documents. These revealed a systematic fraud encompassing bribed referees, tampered gloves, and fighters coerced into compliance. At least 5 of Paul's matches were confirmed as entirely staged. Investigators detailed how hundreds of fake accounts were created to bet on predetermined outcomes, laundering $10 to $15 million per fight through cryptocurrencies before converting it to cash via illicit networks. Ties between Paul and organized crime became undeniable. His entourage now included former mafia affiliates, who were reportedly responsible for intimidating uncooperative opponents. Threats to fighters and their families were documented, with property vandalism and targeted harassment driving 2 opponents to withdraw from fights. The methods were chillingly precise, ensuring compliance without leaving a trail. Paul's doping practices came under scrutiny as well. Tests detected traces of experimental drugs undetectable by standard protocols, prompting an attempted inquiry by anti-doping officials. However, 3 employees resigned after their computers were hacked and vital data erased. These coordinated efforts pointed to a powerful network shielding his operations from accountability. In the weeks leading up to the Tyson fight, analysts identified over $50 million flowing through offshore accounts linked to Paul. 1,000 new cryptocurrency wallets emerged, facilitating massive transactions resembling schemes from his earlier matches. Simultaneously, his private jet made repeated trips to Mexico, reportedly bringing back sports equipment, while suspicious figures with ties to banned substance manufacturers frequented his camp. Preparations for the fight seemed less about boxing and more about orchestrating yet another meticulously planned fraud. As October 2024 unfolds, the build-up to Jake Paul's fight against Mike Tyson takes an increasingly sinister turn. Investigators uncover startling financial activities tied to Paul, with estimates suggesting over $100 million funneled through offshore accounts and front companies in the weeks leading up to the match. Pressure on Tyson's camp intensifies, with members of his coaching staff reporting being followed and receiving anonymous threats. One of his sparring partners is hospitalized after a violent attack, and evidence collected at the scene links the assailants to individuals in Paul's circle. Meanwhile, Victory Labs, Paul's recently established sports nutrition company, attracts scrutiny. Officially producing supplements, the company is exposed as a cover for importing precursors used in experimental stimulants. With ties to former cartel operatives acting as consultants, Victory Labs becomes a central focus in ongoing investigations. In Paul's training camp, the use of untested substances seems routine, fueling speculation of performance enhancement. Videos of his sparring sessions reveal unnatural stamina and aggression, raising concerns about his physical state. 2 months before the fight, Paul hires a shadowy psychological preparation expert whose history is as troubling as it is opaque. This individual, reportedly involved in fixing professional matches, is observed holding clandestine meetings with high-profile bookmakers. These meetings, taking place in the seclusion of luxury hotel rooms, point to orchestrated manipulations involving fight outcomes. The leaked documents that surface in October confirm these suspicions. They outline a meticulous plan involving altered gloves, bribed referees, and illicit substances, an operation with a $30 million budget. As the fight draws closer, prominent figures in organized crime flood into Las Vegas. Underground bookmakers expand operations, offering odds that fluctuate erratically, likely reflecting insider knowledge. At the center of this chaos is Paul himself, whose behavior grows increasingly erratic. His press conferences are laced with delusional statements about supernatural powers and conspiracies, leading 3 psychiatrists to independently identify signs of severe psychosis. Medical experts analyzing his training footage detect physical markers consistent with psychotropic substance use, raising alarms about his mental and physical stability. 1 week before the fight, whispers emerge of covert negotiations between Paul's representatives and Las Vegas's criminal elites. Bribes worth millions are reportedly allocated to ensure a specific outcome. Simultaneously, law enforcement agencies ramp up efforts for a special operation aimed at disrupting what is now suspected to be the most significant fraud in boxing history. Suspense hangs heavy as the world awaits November 15th, the day when his legacy reaches its most explosive moment yet. The phenomenon of his rise, from a Disney Channel actor to a self-proclaimed professional boxer, has left an indelible mark on the digital era. Beneath his carefully curated persona lies a machine engineered to exploit the blind trust of his audience, primarily composed of impressionable teenagers. Over $200 million in losses attributed to his fraudulent ventures have been reported, but experts suggest this figure is likely a fraction of the true scale. Victims, ranging in age from 13 to 21, believed they were supporting an idol who understood and cared for them, a perception Paul skillfully cultivated through relentless social media engagement. Psychologists studying these cases highlight the dangerous emotional attachment fostered by influencers. Young followers are drawn into a false sense of intimacy, interpreting advertising campaigns as genuine advice and viewing calls to invest as acts of mentorship. His methods were particularly insidious, as his scams often played on the hopes and dreams of his audience, offering promises of financial freedom or exclusive opportunities that never materialized. This blind faith, combined with the opacity of digital transactions, allowed him to weave an empire of deceit. As his schemes unfolded, Paul became a template for a new breed of online criminals. Emerging influencers now replicate his tactics, launching cryptocurrencies, selling empty promises, and creating financial pyramids. Each scam leverages the same tools: bots inflating subscriber counts, rented mansions for fabricated lifestyles, and strategic marketing campaigns to maintain an illusion of authenticity. Analysts warn that his success has emboldened others, leading to a surge in financial crimes across social media platforms. Cryptocurrencies, offshore accounts, and digital wallets offer these scammers unprecedented anonymity, making enforcement a game of endless pursuit. Beyond financial loss, the psychological toll on young victims is profound. These scams erode trust, leaving many disillusioned and skeptical of genuine opportunities. Even more concerning is the toxic behavior normalized by influencers like him. Deception, manipulation, and quick enrichment are glorified, shaping a generation's values in deeply harmful ways. Researchers note an alarming rise in young people idolizing this hustle culture, where moral boundaries are blurred in the race for wealth and status. The growing influence of social media as a platform for criminal enterprise has transformed the landscape of deception. What began as a stage for entertainment has evolved into a powerful weapon, capable of altering perceptions, laundering money, and perpetuating systemic fraud, all under the guise of success.